Absolutely. In fact, two areas we'd like to focus on, at least for this part of our conversation, is one is how are we treating cancer within the country, and how is our advocacy placed? How are we understanding cancer? So advocacy and talking about cancer, somewhere people have started discussing it in drawing rooms, on TV shows more openly. People are more open about, because it's such a personal thing and people would hold it together. Now they're sharing stories.
Yes.
So that is one area. But how else can we be better at spreading awareness, and how far is the West ahead of us in this area?
See, we need to destigmatize cancer in India, not just in the urban areas, but also in the rural areas. People need to know that, there are some things you can do to prevent cancer, and also that, cancer is curable. And we need to have education programs. I run a charity called NICI, New India Cancer Charity Initiative.
Okay.
And we've adopted about 47 villages in UP. And I don't need to spend anything. I just teach the ASHA and the Anganwadi workers. So, they go to people's homes and they're able to talk to people in the villages. So, you don't need to do much. You just need to use the infrastructure that you currently have already in place to do good,
and where you
to
can
raise
plug
awareness.
In, absolutely, and then take
They're
it
already
forward.
doing immunization, they're already doing other drives. So, just make them aware, teach them about cancer as well. They go to people's houses, tell them, aap tambakhu mat khao, aap exercise karo, phal fruit khao, kachi sabziyan khao. Small things, they go a long way in preventing cancer. About 40 to 60% cancers in India are preventable. So, and that starts with the villages, with ASHA, Anganwadi workers, and the community health centers, primary health centers. We have an amazing system, I've realized.
Okay.
The only thing is, we have to somehow optimize it to maximum to deliver good cancer care. In the urban areas, when I left India in Jan 98, in Delhi, we had only one cancer center. Just giving you an example. Now there are 20 cancer centers, which are, doing an amazing job. But again, there is no optimization. There is no standardization compared to the West.
Optimization and standardization and quality care.
Yes.
One is, of course, the pressure is so much. But how often is pressure the right excuse or the right reason for maybe lack of quality care? Is that correct? That's a myth, or that's the truth? That's one. And the second thing is that our challenges here are different even in terms of how doctors understand cancer.
Yes.
Is that true?
Absolutely right. I mean, I've been in India having worked in the private sector and the government sector. So I have a deep feeling about the challenges we face compared to the West. In the West, everything is very regularized, You cannot put a foot wrong. If you do, you are penalized. The trust is penalized. You don't get the money to treat the patients. If your outcomes are not as good, or, you're not doing things the right way. In India, I think what we need is accountability in the private sector and the government sector. And by that I mean is, in cancer, you have 3 key disciplines of treatment. Chemotherapy, that's drugs, that's radiation therapy, that's x-rays, and surgery. So these are the 3 key disciplines which have to be at par with the world to deliver the best care to the patient. Now, whether the patient is poor or rich, it should be the same care that the patient receives. Because in cancer, you have to get the treatment right the first time. If you don't get the right surgery the first time, then you've lost the boat.
Okay.
The chances of cure go down hugely. So, to get the right treatment right at the beginning is so important. So, by optimizing, I mean is that, every hospital, whether it's private or government, should be transparent in what they do. So, about infection control rates, about, let's say, for chemotherapy, 30-day mortality. You're giving chemotherapy, what is your response rate? How many patients have died as a result of chemotherapy? What is your long-term survival? 2 years, 5 years. All of us should be transparent in putting it up on the website, or as to, saying that this is what we have, and a patient should have a right to choose where they want to go. Whether they want a second opinion or a third opinion, they should have the right. You want to buy a sari, you go to 3 shops, and you decide which one you want. So why should a patient not have a right to take a second opinion or a third opinion? They should. they should have the right to their tissue blocks. So I've seen in the private sector, a lot of hospitals will not give patients their tissue blocks for a second opinion, and which is wrong. So all of these things, if you're transparent in what you're doing, then you will have a benchmark and you will try and improve. Let's say my results are 30% response rate, but in the West it's 60%. I will question, why is it 30%? Is it because I'm not giving the right dose? Or is it because I'm not giving the right drug? Or is it the quality of the drug? So all of these things, they have to be standardized across India. They are not standardized. Today as a doctor, I can do what I want in India. I write a prescription. There is nobody to ask me why you've done that. This is not evidence-based.
So how does greater accountability come in?
So greater accountability comes in by, like let's say we have guidelines in place in the West. You have for European society, you have European guidelines. In India, we try and follow those guidelines, which is wrong, because we need to have our own guidelines, because the biology of the cancer in Indian patients is different.
Okay.
So we need to have the way the drugs work or the radiotherapy may work in India is in Indian patients may be totally different. So ICMR, the Indian Council of Medical Research, has done a wonderful initiative. They have come up with guidelines for treating cancer patients in India. 3 guidelines have been rolled out. Now, how we implement those guidelines, is very crucial. To have the guidelines there on the website, they are available in printed form to various hospitals. But how do you implement them? Will the hospital be penalized if the doctor does not follow the guidelines? So a patient ends up having surgery when the patient does not need the surgery. And most Indian patients are very, very trusting. They think doctor is God. And we have to be their best advocate. So as doctors and physicians, we have to make sure that they get the right treatment.
When you talk of accountability and ethics in the medical arena,
yes,
it's also a big challenge, because when you penalize somebody, a penalty or a process of penalizing invariably sets in motion the habit of hiding, of covering, of defending.
True.
So the change, and we all know change has to come from within.
Absolutely.
We realize that.
Yes.
But you do a lot of work with students.
Yes.
How we teach our young medical professionals to handle maybe failure, maybe
Yes.
a wrong diagnosis, because it's depending on the individual.
Absolutely.
Are we doing that correctly?
So 2 things. First thing is maybe not penalizing, maybe rewarding the hospital, say a corporate sector or government sector. If the results are being published, that's the first step. You accepting that, that maybe we are not at par, or we are at par, or we are better than, what the West is doing or what the other centers are doing. So that will be great. So maybe rewarding that trust, or hospital or corporate sector or government. The second thing is advocacy in students, and also teaching them the right way, right from MBBS level.
Right.
I trained in India, and I never had any training in palliative care, into getting the diagnosis right, how to various symptoms, the alert symptoms of cancer. I had no clue till I went to Tata Hospital in '94 and got into the intricacies. I came back to Tata Hospital, and the other thing that again my students still don't get is communication, like breaking bad news, and how to be empathic when a patient is diagnosed with cancer. It is a shock,
Right.
and to have a 10-minute consultation or a 5-minute consultation is not enough. You need to have a 30 to 45-minute consultation where you have told the patient what their prognosis is. You've said you've got 6 months, which is very sad. It's very distressing for a family.
Right, because for a doctor it's a patient, and for the patient it's his or her world.
And then you need to do it in stages. You need to have a nurse holding the patient's hand, talking it through, even after you've seen the patient. So we need to have something called communication skills. How to communicate with the patient, how to, you're saying you need palliative care. The first thing the patient thinks is palliative care means I'm dying. So, so everybody's given up on me. So one needs to tell them that, that
I'm being kept alive. That's what the feeling is.
And also you need to explain that, we can do this, but also we have to be honest sometimes in saying that nothing can be done. Sometimes as doctors also we fail that, We've tried everything, or patient comes in a very advanced stage, and we have to say that nothing can be done. And that is very difficult, I have found, compared to the West and East in India, for Indian patients to accept.
Right.
Whether they are from a poor family or a very higher socioeconomic status. Everybody wants to do the best for their loved one. And they're ready to spend anything. They're ready to mortgage their house. They're ready to sell their land. And sometimes as doctors, we have to be very honest in saying that nothing actually can be done. As doctors, we take oath, do no harm. So sometimes treating also is harming the patient.
Right.
So that also has to be put across the patients. That when a doctor says that, when a cancer doctor who's a specialist has said nothing can be done, one has to take cognizance of that. And then comes the end of life care. And, again, the government needs to do a lot in that. A patient where cancer treatment is not being done, cannot be done. And for a patient to end up in an emergency department of a hospital and then be put on a ventilator to prolong life is very wrong. What that patient needs is care at home, at place where they live, and kept comfortable, pain-free, and have some respect and dignity at the end of life. And there are a lot of charities doing an amazing job.
Right. So when we talk of care at home, I think sometimes, when somebody is suffering from something which is chronic and long term, the collateral damage or the fallout on the caregiver can be huge.
Yes.
So do we have some systems, means, methodologies where the caregiver is also trained and helped to understand his or her role? Because, we are human beings, and sometimes caregiving over a period of time can completely make life unbearable for a person who could have otherwise led a normal life.
Absolutely. See, when anybody in your family has cancer, it's not that patient going through that, it's the whole family. The children, the husband, the spouse, the mother, grandmother, the whole family is affected. And the caregiver, the key caregiver, usually is the spouse or the kids. So, they are the most affected, and we do not have systems in place in India to do that. And in the West, yes, you have a lot of people, you have a lot of resources also. So I think what we have to do for India is to try and do more with whatever limited resources we have. And the best way to do that is training our physicians the right way in communication, and also, training the nurses. Because, the nurses are not just there to change the bed sheets and look after the patient, change bedpans, and just administer chemotherapy. They are the ones, who I always say are the key engine room of running a hospital. And
the human face.
And the human face, because, they actually are with the patient so much of the time.
And they attend to the patient's personal needs.
Yes.
So when a patient is allowing somebody to walk into a very intimate and a personal space, the connection is different.
Absolutely. So, they can, talk to the caregiver. And key thing is, instilling in the patient that, that you should look after your health, especially the caregivers. Only then you can look after the patient's health.
Wonderful. So we're going to dwell a little more on caregivers, and we'll also try and understand from you what are some things that, if there are caregivers in our audience, what are some things that we could do and help any cancer survivor or a person suffering from cancer do better, and yet at the same time understand that there are two lives and how they're interlinked. But we'll talk about all that and a lot more, Bhavna, after this short break. Stay with us.